All right, let's do it. This deep dive is all about prompt engineering for large language models, based on this research you sent over. Seems like you've been digging deep into how to make AI really work.
Yeah, it is a fascinating field. Like we're trying to crack the code of how to talk to AI, give it the right instructions so we can really unlock its full potential.
Yeah, it's like we're searching for the cheat codes to the most powerful tool ever invented. But I've got to be honest, I'm still a little bit fuzzy on how all this actually works. Like we all kind of know what LLMs are now, but how do we really use them well?
Well, that's where prompt engineering comes in. You can think of it as crafting the perfect question, the one that's going to get you the most insightful, the most useful answer out of the AI.
Okay, so it's not just about what you ask, but how you ask it.
Exactly. Like, let's say you're a marketing manager, right? And you're trying to figure out why your new product launch totally bombed. A simple prompt like, analyze customer reviews. That might give you some basic feedback. But what if you used a technique called tree of thought prompting? You could actually guide the LLM to explore all these different branches of thought. Like, was it the pricing? Was it the marketing campaign? Maybe even the packaging was turning people off. Something you never would have thought of on your own.
Wow, so instead of just getting a surface level summary, you're getting a whole roadmap of potential problems and solutions. That's way more useful than just a bunch of data points.
Right. And there's this other technique called chain of thought prompting. Imagine you're a journalist trying to fact check some complicated claim. With chain of thought prompting, you can actually ask the LLM to show its work, like walk you through the reasoning step by step.
So it's like having this super smart research assistant
Hmm.
who can not only find the information, but also explain why it's relevant and how it reached its conclusion. That's a game changer when it comes to building trust in these systems.
Absolutely. And this is just the beginning. We're really just starting to understand all the possibilities of prompt engineering. It's changing all the time.
This is seriously mind-blowing. And from what I'm seeing here, these LLMs can actually be designed to learn from their mistakes. Like they can almost fact check themselves.
That's right. Researchers are working on ways to make LLMs more self-aware, capable of actually analyzing their own output and then flagging any potential biases or errors. Like imagine an LLM that could summarize a news article and then tell you how confident it is in its accuracy, or even point out areas where more investigation is needed.
Okay, now that's getting into sci-fi territory. An AI that can flag its own flaws. That seems like a huge step towards making these systems more reliable and trustworthy. But wouldn't you need massive amounts of data to train these things? I'm imagining rooms full of servers just to run a single prompt.
It can require a lot of data, sure, but there are these emerging techniques that actually need way less data to work. One of them is called few-shot learning. Imagine you're trying to teach an LLM to recognize different writing styles, like Hemingway versus Shakespeare. Instead of feeding it all their works, you could just show it a couple of paragraphs from each author, and it can already start to pick up on those nuances.
So it's like learning from just a few key examples rather than drowning in a sea of data. That makes a lot more sense.
Okay.
But what happens when the information you're working with is constantly changing? Like think about stock prices or real-time news updates. Can these prompts handle that kind of dynamic data?
They can. We call that dynamic prompting. Like, picture a financial analyst using an LLM to track market trends. A dynamic prompt could be designed to, automatically update its analysis as new data comes in, incorporating breaking news, price fluctuations, maybe even social media sentiment.
Whoa, so it's like having an AI that's constantly learning and adapting to the world around it. That opens up so many possibilities for fields like finance, healthcare, maybe even disaster response. Like I bet you could even design a prompt that could predict where a wildfire might spread just based on real-time weather data.
Exactly. And we're even exploring the potential for autonomous prompting, where an LLM can handle long-term multi-stage tasks, totally independently without constant human input.
Whoa, hold on. An AI project manager.
Yeah.
It sounds almost too good to be true.
It's definitely a frontier, something we're still figuring out, but the possibilities are amazing. Think about research projects that could run continuously, automatically refining their approach based on the data they gather, or even creative endeavors where an LLM could collaborate with, like a human writer, offering plot suggestions, character development ideas, maybe even alternate endings to a story.
Okay, my head is officially spinning. This is all so fascinating. I'm starting to see how prompt engineering is more than just a technical skill. It's almost like an art form. Figuring out how to communicate with these AI systems in a way that unlocks their potential.
That's a great way to put it. It's about understanding the language of AI and using it to solve problems, create new things, and really push the boundaries of what's possible.
Before we move on, though, is there anything else about those dynamic prompts that you think our listeners should know?
Well, one of the most important things to remember with dynamic prompting is that it's not just about feeding the AI a ton of data. You've got to design the prompt in a way that allows the LLM to, filter and prioritize that information well. Otherwise, you could overwhelm the system and end up with unreliable results.
So it's not just about the quantity of data, but the quality of the prompt itself. It's all about guiding the LLM towards those really relevant insights, even when there's a ton of information changing all the time. This is seriously blowing my mind.
And that's just one of the many challenges and opportunities in this field.
All right, I think we need to take a breather here. We've covered a lot already. From the basics of prompt engineering to these crazy concepts like dynamic and autonomous prompting.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
I can't wait to dive in even deeper. But for now, let's take a quick pause and come back to explore even more fascinating trends in the world of prompt engineering.
Welcome back.
All right, I'm ready to jump back into this rabbit hole of prompt engineering. What other wild concepts are lurking out there?
So we've talked about how to actually craft those prompts, right, for all sorts of different tasks. But there's another really important aspect to all of this, making sure that these LLMs are actually being used responsibly, ethically.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. With great power comes great responsibility, right?
Yeah.
But what does that look like when we're talking about prompt engineering?
Well, it starts with recognizing that these LLMs, they're trained on these massive data sets of human language, right? And that means that they can also kind of pick up on, inherit the biases and limitations that are already present in that data.
So if the data itself is already kind of skewed in a certain direction, the LLM might just unknowingly perpetuate those biases. That's a little unsettling.
Yeah, it's something we need to be very aware of. For example, let's say an LLM is trained on a bunch of news articles that focus way too much on crime in specific neighborhoods. Well, it might develop this inaccurate and potentially harmful perception of those communities.
That's a perfect example. So how do we avoid that? How do we make sure that doesn't happen?
One approach is to be really careful about how we put together that training data in the first place. Making sure that it actually represents a wide range of perspectives and experiences. We can also develop techniques to kind of debias the data itself, so we're identifying and mitigating any potential problems before the LLM is even trained.
So it's like we're building in safeguards into the system right from the start. But what about the prompts themselves? Can we actually design prompts that minimize the risk of bias?
Oh, absolutely. A well-crafted prompt can really nudge the LLM towards more balanced and objective outputs. For instance, instead of asking like, what are the causes of crime in this neighborhood, you could ask something like, what are the social and economic factors that contribute to crime rates across different communities?
That's a much more nuanced way to phrase it, that's for sure. It encourages the LLM to think about the bigger picture and avoid making generalizations. It seems like prompt engineering really requires a deep understanding of not just AI, but also sociology, ethics, psychology even.
You got it. It's a field that demands this interdisciplinary approach, a real commitment to using this technology in a way that actually benefits society?
Wow, this is giving me a whole new perspective on how complex this all is. It's not just lines of code, right?
Yep.
It's about the human element, the values that we build into these systems and the impact they have on the world around us.
Exactly. And it goes way beyond just preventing harm. We can use prompt engineering to actually create AI systems that are actively promoting positive social change. You could use LLMs to analyze legal documents, maybe find patterns of discrimination, or develop educational resources that are accessible and inclusive for everyone.
That's pretty inspiring. Like, we're talking about turning AI into a tool for social justice. But let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about these really powerful LLMs, but I'm curious about the practicality here. What about people like me who don't have access to huge computing resources? Can prompt engineering still be useful for smaller projects?
Absolutely. You don't need a supercomputer to benefit from prompt engineering. In fact, researchers are developing ways to let LLMs work really well, even on devices with limited power, like smartphones.
Wow. So you could be walking down the street and use a prompt to have an LLM translate a conversation in real time. Or summarize a research paper while you're on the go. That would totally change how accessible this technology is.
Exactly. And we're already seeing some cool examples of this. Have you heard of low resource prompting?
Low resource prompting. That's a new
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. So it's all about designing these super efficient prompts, right? They only need minimal data and processing power. Like imagine you're trying to train an LLM to identify different bird species just from their songs. But you only have a handful of recordings to work with.
That's wild. So instead of a massive database, you could build a really accurate model with just a few carefully selected examples. This is opening my eyes to just how adaptable prompt engineering is. It's not just for these high-tech labs. It can be used
Yep.
for almost anything.
Precisely. It's all about getting creative, pushing the boundaries of what's possible with whatever resources you have, and that's what makes it so exciting. That constant innovation and the potential to make a positive impact in all sorts of areas.
This has been a really eye-opening conversation. I'm starting to see that prompt engineering, it's more than just a technical skill. It's a way of thinking about and solving problems, a way of shaping the future of AI in a way that's positive and beneficial.
I couldn't agree more. It's about harnessing the potential of AI, but doing it for good.
Well said. So you mentioned earlier that idea of autonomous prompting, and I've got to admit, the idea of an AI that can manage projects on its own, it's both fascinating and kind of terrifying.
Yeah, I get it. It definitely brings up a lot of questions about control and accountability, about what it means to be intelligent, even.
Exactly. I mean, on one hand, the possibilities are insane. Imagine an AI that could conduct scientific experiments, you know, compose music, write novels even, all without us humans having to lift a finger.
It's pretty mind-blowing to think about, right? But we have to be careful as we're exploring this new territory. We need to make sure these autonomous systems are aligned with our values and our goals,
Hmm.
that we're able to keep an eye on them and step in if we need to.
So it's not just about letting the AI run wild. It's about setting those boundaries, making sure these systems are serving us, not the other way around.
Exactly. It's about building a future where humans and AI can work together, each playing to their own strengths to achieve something truly remarkable.
This is starting to sound like a whole new chapter in human history. And it seems like prompt engineering is going to be the language we use to write that chapter.
I think you're right. It's the key to unlocking the real potential of AI and creating a future where technology helps us solve the toughest challenges we're facing.
Before we move on, though, is there anything else about autonomous prompting that you think would be helpful for our listener?
Well, I think one of the big things to consider is how it might affect the workforce. If AI systems become capable of handling more complex tasks on their own, we need to be prepared for how that might change the job market, right? We need to make sure everyone has the opportunity to succeed in this new world.
That's a great point. It's not just about the technology itself, but about the ripple effects it has on society and the economy. We need to make sure that AI benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Absolutely. It's our collective responsibility to steer the development of AI in a direction that leads to a more fair and prosperous future for everyone.
Well said. I think we've covered a ton of ground in this section, from the ethical considerations of prompt engineering to the mind-boggling possibilities of autonomous systems. It's clear that this field is changing so fast and has the power to completely reshape our world.
It really is an exciting time to be involved in AI. And I truly believe that prompt engineering will be at the forefront of this transformation.
Okay, I'm ready for another quick breather here.
Yep.
Let's take a pause and then come back for our last segment, where we can explore the future of prompt engineering and what it all means for us. Okay, we're back for our final deep dive segment into prompt engineering. We've talked about the techniques, the ethical side of things, even those mind-blowing autonomous AIs. But what's the big picture here? Where's all this heading?
Well, the future of prompt engineering, it's pretty exciting. I mean, we're really just starting to see what we can do with all this.
That's quite a thought. But how do we actually get there? What are the big things that are going to shape the future of prompt engineering?
One thing that's changing super fast is how we interact with LLMs, making it more user-friendly. We're moving away from, complex code and commands and going towards something more like natural language. Like imagine just talking to an AI like you would a friend. You could explain what you want and it could give you insights in a way that feels like a conversation.
That would be amazing. It would make AI so much easier for anyone to use. But wouldn't that require AI to take a huge leap forward in understanding human language?
For sure. And that's exactly what we're seeing in natural language processing. LLMs are getting much better at understanding context, nuance, even emotion in how we talk. This opens up tons of possibilities for interacting with AI in a way that feels more natural and personalized.
So instead of just giving a list of instructions, we could have a real back and forth with AI, refine our questions and get feedback right away. It'd be like having a brainstorming partner, but one that has the knowledge and power of an LLM. That's pretty wild.
Exactly. And this kind of interactive prompting, it's going to be crucial for tackling those bigger, more creative challenges, Like, imagine designers using AI to generate ideas for a new product, going back and forth to explore and refine their design through conversation. Or a musician working with AI to compose a whole symphony, bouncing ideas back and forth, exploring completely new soundscapes.
This is starting to sound like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it feels like it's becoming real right now. But with all this talk of intuitive interfaces and AI acting more human, I have to ask, are we headed towards a future where AI is basically indistinguishable from human intelligence?
Ah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Philosophers and scientists have been wrestling with that one for ages. While it's definitely an interesting thing to think about, I think it's important to remember that AI, even the most advanced kind, is a tool that we can use to do more, to be more creative, to solve those really hard problems. But at the end of the day, it's up to us, humans, to make sure it's used for good.
That's a really important point. It's not about replacing human intelligence, but making it better. Finding ways to work with AI to do things we could never do alone. And it seems like prompt engineering is going to be how we make that connection happen.
I think so. It's the language that will let us share our ideas, our values, and our dreams with these incredibly powerful tools. And as we keep pushing the boundaries of AI, prompt engineering is going to be how we keep it aligned with what we as humans want for the future.
This has been an amazing journey. We started with the basics of prompt engineering and ended up talking about AI assistants that feel like friends, creative collaborations between humans and AI, and even the philosophy of artificial intelligence.
Mhm.
I feel like I've got a whole new understanding of how powerful human ingenuity can be, how we can shape the future of technology.
That's great to hear. I hope everyone listening feels inspired to keep learning, keep exploring, and keep pushing those boundaries. There's so much potential out there, and prompt engineering is going to be a big part of unlocking it.
Well said. This has been a fantastic deep dive into prompt engineering. Thanks for sharing your expertise and insights with us.
The pleasure was all mine. Thanks for the great questions and the conversation.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this journey. We hope you've learned something new about AI and the power of prompt engineering. Until next time, keep exploring.